Diachwit, bonjour, hola. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Ken at 10, but not quite at 10, at 10:19. What happened? I just did a Ken at 10, believe it or not, and somehow it didn't go live. So how are you today? Hope you're well. Few things to report in terms of the market in general. Notice a nice, well, I say nice. Property prices are up again, hitting record highs across the UK. Why is that? Well, I think a lot of people are trying to step in just before the interest rates rise up a little bit more, maybe lock down those rates. There's also the pent-up demand from the pandemic, especially here in London, where a lot of people made the decision to buy a house and just couldn't do anything about it over the lockdown, and then wonder whether they'd ever be coming back and commuting to London. So now London's opened back up again. People are commuting in. There's a little bit of that around London. So London's certainly picked up massively. I know the coastal areas have been busy for a long time now, but certainly London seems to be catching up much busier here, especially in the sweet spots around the sort of 400,000 to 600,000 mark. And make sure if you're a buyer, you put your best foot forward in terms of the way that you approach the offer. You know, I was saying this the other day to somebody, the most important thing is that you provide the information that the agent requests and come across as a nice person. I'm sure you are, because when an agent's dealing with you, it's quite likely that the person on the other side of this transaction, that is the seller, likes and trusts the agent. That's why they chose them. And if they do, they'll trust what they say. So the important thing is you want to be the person that the agent thinks is the nice guy or lady, the nice lady that they met, that, you know, the ones that they're gonna make it a family home, and, you know, get your personality into it. Make sure they know what a nice person you are, because it's not always just about money. Sometimes it's about being able to prove your capability to buy. And that means making sure you provide passports, driving licenses, details of deposit straight away as soon as you can. And secondly, just be genuine about it and say, look, cards on the table. Make sure you put your best foot forward, because it's that busy out there. If you are looking for a house, it's quite likely that you may have to pay over the asking price. I know it takes some getting your head around, but lots of agents, us included, will use an offers over strategy. Why is that? Well, we don't know. We don't know what a property's worth. It's worth what someone will pay. And the truth is, when you have a large audience of people all wanting a house in a certain price range, then the way to find out exactly what it's worth is to let the buyers decide. And what tends to happen is lots of people will go and see a house, and then they will decide whether they will bid the asking price more or less. And house prices are like water. You know, if it was agents that decided house prices, well, they'd all be 100 million and we'd all be millionaires, wouldn't we? The reality is that house prices are decided by what people will pay, and what people will pay is dictated on a number of factors, such as their budget, most importantly, how it compares with other things in the price range. You know, when a buyer looks at your property, they've probably looked at 10 that evening, or certainly that week, whereas the agent that valued that property has probably seen only one of that type and style this month. So who's the better judge of value, the buyer or the agent? I would always say the buyer. One of the questions that we always ask people is, look, how did it compare with everything else you've seen? Because if we can understand how it compares with everything else on the market, it gives us an idea of whether it's competitively priced, poorly priced, and where you feel it stands in the market. Ultimately, the price will be driven by one thing and one thing only: how it compares for the money in the marketplace and the available audience for that. For a seller, it's a little bit, I always think of it like a funnel. You know, it's the agent's job to try and get as many buyers introduced to the property as possible. How do they do that? In three ways: price, getting the price right, number one; two, presentation, make sure it's presented well and photographed well; and finally, promotion, by obviously putting it in the eyes of the buyers and sellers via Rightmove, Zoopla, and all the other platforms, making sure that those pictures look just right. So from that point of view, if you're a buyer, I know it's a frustrating time, really tough for you buyers. I was just reading another article that 40-year mortgages are now common. 40 years. That means many people taking mortgages now, young people, given the average age of a first-time buyer is over 30, will be taking mortgages into retirement. That's quite shocking, isn't it? It is for those of us that when we were younger, we were lucky enough to be able to buy with a 25-year mortgage. But now affordability dictates that those mortgage lengths are going up and up. And 40-year mortgages are now something like 50% of the market. So young people are taking on a lot of debt, and it's difficult for them, very difficult. And if you're looking at the numbers, just make sure they're affordable to you in the short term. Of course, over those 40 years, the value of that debt will erode, especially with inflation running high. The higher the inflation rate, the more the debt is eroded by the value of it. In other words, if inflation runs at 10% and you've got £1,000 debt, then by the end of the year, that debt is eroded by the relative amount of £100, even though you're not paying it off. Not financial advice, but just means that over time, debts that look substantial initially do erode over time. But the most important thing is you feel that it's affordable to you right now from your salary. You need to have a long chat with an independent financial advisor to make sure you feel confident about that. Got the Homes Under the Hammer logo up again. Yes, we're out and about again with them tomorrow, filming again in Wimbledon, filming a lot in Wimbledon recently. And this is a second look. So when we do the second look, that means that we've seen it before it's done up. And then we've seen it finally done, make comments on what we think, how it appears, what the price for sale and rental might be. And then that gets published live when the producers can fit it into the BBC schedule. And then we'll let you know as soon as we know. We've got a number of episodes in the bank that have yet to air this year. And that's always a nice place to be, because you know you're going to get a few episodes on the bounce, and that's really good for our business. Thank you for all of those of you that have supported these channels that we broadcast on. It's lovely to have you along. I had so many positive comments. You know, when I first started doing this, it was like really weird, just thinking, am I just looking into the camera, or are people actually the other side of it? And many of you have let me know that you enjoy the show every day and like to hear what's going on with the property market, both locally here in Southwest 16 and nationally through the news headlines that we bring to you. So that's it for today. We've got a busy day on offers today. Lots and lots of offers coming in from what we had available. Not enough stock, particularly smaller flats are massively popular right now. You know, we've got a one-bedroom flat that's just come onto the market, £1,000 per calendar month in Thornton Heath. Last time it was rented out, it was £850 per calendar month, and now it's £1,000, and people are lining up to view it. So it just goes to show how the market's moved on. There's so little available on the rental side. Many landlords have chosen the busier market to sell up some or all of their stock, particularly the multi-property landlords, because the Section 24 tax rules mean that they're actually losing money, because by the time they take their mortgage payments into account that they can no longer offset against their interest, then against their rent, it means that they can actually be what you might call a busy fool. In other words, by the time they declare their tax at the end of the year, they're paying more in tax, meaning that they're not even breaking even. They're actually paying money in to keep buy-to-lets. And the whole point of a buy-to-let, surely, is to make a profit. And that's when it comes down to making sure you get the right advice if you are thinking about buy-to-let. Many people now considering limited companies because they do allow you to offset that interest payment. But it does depend on how big your portfolio is going to be and what your aims are to do with those monies. It doesn't mean the buy-to-let is dead by any means. It's certainly alive and thriving, and a great way to fund various things. Many of our clients are pensioners that have used it to fund their retirement. Others have used it to fund school fees for their young children, and then just held onto the property so that they can use the income later on as inflation in rents grows, so that they can pay school fees for their children when they get to secondary school age. And many of them have just used it as a supplement to their income. The great thing about property and investment into property is that there aren't many things that you can do which involve very little physical input or actually administrational input either. And the beauty about property, especially if you have it managed by a competent agent like ourselves, is that you literally get to a stage with it where you could buy it, you rent it out, you hand it over to the managing agent, and literally your involvement will be almost zero. And the beauty of that is that if you're making a profit from that asset, then you can do that time and time again. And if you put that against whatever job you do, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're a high-level surgeon or engineer or anything, your hourly rate may be considerable, but it is exactly that. It's an hourly rate. It's only relevant while you're working. The beauty of residential property is it's earning money while you're not doing anything. That rent comes in monthly. That's your income. What have you actually done for that? Other than had the guts to go in and buy it in the first place, I would suggest not a lot. And this is why it's such a form of lucrative investment for people that want a hands-off investment where they know that the underlying asset has a solid value, and also the rental income is likely to be consistent. And it's proved itself again and again through the pandemic. You know, we've seen many people looking at their portfolios through the pandemic, expecting lots and lots of tenants to default. And in fact, we found exactly the opposite. Most have managed to pull through it, thankfully, in our area. And it's been a very, very strong performer right throughout the pandemic. Big surprise for everybody that, but it's really performed quite well. So aside from that, we have a beautiful spring day here in Norbury. Blue skies, sun is out. It's a little bit chilly, but we like that. That sort of, you know, low sun in the sky days, great for photography. There's a crispness and a whiter light at this time of year, which is great for presenting houses to the market. You know, we love that. So have a great day. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and well. Look after your family, and if you can, your friends. And we'll be back same time tomorrow with another edition. Till then, ciao.